to break down that wild game.
Thank you, Riv. Wild game to say the least. As Kobe mentioned, longest game of the year, 57-30. We have to go to the final few minutes of this game first, just because of all of the chaos that happened.
Wild ending, for sure.
Very much so a wild ending. How do we feel about the late game, or the shot calls there made at the very end by both teams? Enemy choosing to go for the win there with only Bjergsen down, Wild Turtle still pressuring the base.
Queasy, maybe?
It was the worst. It was so crazy. I think the definition of not worth was pretty much those last few minutes there, because they ended up going for so much. Like, it was very uncharacteristic because they were doing almost nothing for a very long time. Then it's like, I'm just gonna flank. I'm gonna kill Bjergsen. They kill him, and then Turtle goes bottom, and then they do this strange trade where Wild Turtle's bottom. I'm trying to think
if strange game. Like,
if there's an opportunity to actually go around Turtle and just push him into the bottom, are you going to be able to pick up Turtle afterwards?
Right. We've been talking about this pretty much ever since we saw the play. Once Bjergsen was killed, with 2 inhibitors down, they don't have that many options. Like, Turtle pulling out that sneak attack in that situation was actually really smart because it takes away most positive opportunities by enemy. The only thing they may have been able to do is, if they do want to match with Inox, he's losing the third inhibitor anyway, is to match with the second inhibitor. So then maybe you can play the dead inhibitors game and not get steamrolled afterwards. But trying to end without your main damage dealer, it's not going to work.
Right. It's overreaching.
Yeah. So a tough decision nonetheless, though, and I do feel that in a sense it showcases a bit of the young element of the team, in that this is the first split for enemy. Shot calling is a little bit more shaky, whereas TSM seemed a little bit more secure, a little bit more in their win conditions there. You know, but now let's jump back through the rest of the 55 minutes of the game and take a look at the early game. Enemy up to this point in the split, we have criticized for having a very weak early game. Here they came out ahead early. And, so that bodes well for them here. But unfortunately, with that loss, they're not vying for that 7th place spot anymore.
Yeah, there could have been a 3-way tie for 7th. There was a possibility for it if enemy won. But to speak to the early game point, a season worth of poor early games, and they play against what has turned into probably the most conservative team in the league with Team Solo Mid. And they actually came out with a lead. And honestly, as far as playing the mid and late game, Enemy is not a bottom-tier team in that sense. They are definitely mid-tier, as far as I'd say, in the LCS, and they kind of showed it in that game, nearly pulling out a win against a really poke-heavy TSM.
Which is a strange thing for TSM, because they pick this team composition that comes online mid-late game. And if Enemy is going to go like really bad early, great mid, but they picked early game champions that scaled a little bit better for themselves. Not better than TSM's comp, but when you match these two up, Enemy ends up being even in gold. TSM, the top-tier team, or near the top of the standings, they're like, well, we're playing this thing where we're going to have actual power slides that are right next to each other, where TSM could probably just play a normal composition and be able to run all over Enemy.
Yeah, it was strange. It seems like maybe that's the only way TSM is playing right now. I hope for their sake they have something else for playoffs.
Well, so yeah, if we look at playoffs, well, you kind of just answered the question there. The hope is that we keep seeing TSM kind of go back to this, well, Bjergsen does the majority of the damage on the team. Let's keep putting him in a position to do that. We'll see if they can come out with something new moving into playoffs. I actually do want to go into the weeds real quick, though, with you, Jap, because you mentioned something during the game about the top lane Aegis. So explain to me why you liked this pickup here on the side of TSM.
Yeah, a lot of times teams are letting themselves be constrained in their jungle support picks because they need someone who can build a locket. But in this situation, they didn't have to do that, so they could put the locket onto the top lane Maokai, and as long as he's safe on farm, the jungler or the top laner, if they're both playing tanks, can absolutely do that. I think it would be better if they even had a damaged jungler and a supportive bottom laner like Janna. You can totally do that if you're playing a group up game.
So finding a bit of a workaround for what seems to be a pain point for some junglers and supports around the league. We're going to step away, but meet us back here in 3.5 for our final game of the day, Team Dragon Knights versus Cloud9. Stay with us.
All right, boys. Let's win this one because the round robin would be super hype.
What a move from Enemy. Can they get out of this one alive, though? Avoidus is going to persistently slow the entire team. That means Otter's on the back line.
Dragon, Baron.
Got him.
Look at him. Look at Mork.
Get better.
Okay, nice. We can dive, we can dive, we can dive.
Chaos Storm in the middle, but it's not really doing a lot of damage. That's a hit up, however, on to Lustboy. He's down. That's a lot of the disengage.
Okay. We can end off mid lane. We have to try and end it here. We have to try and end it here.
Turtle coming up big in a solo match in the area by himself. He goes down, but TSM has already won the fight in the base. Team Solo Mid finally break the base and take down enemy.